Your friend calls you at midnight, crying about another breakup. You drop everything, listen for 2 hours, absorb their pain, and offer endless comfort. Your colleague vents about their toxic boss, and you spend your lunch break being their emotional support. Your family member guilt trips you into helping with something you don't have time for, and you say yes because you understand their struggle. In that moment, you feel compassionate, helpful, virtuous. But here's the devastating truth nobody tells you. You're not being empathetic. You're being exploited. Every time you absorb someone else's emotions, every time you prioritize their feelings over your boundaries, every time you become their free therapist, you're teaching the world that your energy has no value. You're training people that emotional manipulation works on you, and excessive empathy is the fastest path to powerlessness. Today, we're going to explore the uncompromising truth about empathy, why too much of it destroys power, and how to transform from someone who absorbs emotions into someone who maintains strategic boundaries. The modern world has made empathy seem like the ultimate virtue. We're told to be understanding, to feel others' pain, to always be there for people. Social media celebrates those who are endlessly compassionate. Professional culture rewards those who never say no to emotional labor. We've been conditioned to believe that empathy equals strength, that emotional availability equals virtue, that absorbing others' pain equals compassion. But this is a trap. In a world where emotional manipulation is currency, where guilt-tripping is strategy, where draining others' energy is power, the person who absorbs everyone's emotions is the person who gets used. They become predictable, manipulable, and ultimately powerless. Consider this scenario. Person A always absorbs others' emotions, never enforces boundaries, and becomes everyone's free therapist. Person B maintains strategic empathy, enforces boundaries ruthlessly, and protects their emotional energy. Who do you think gets more respect? Who's less likely to be manipulated? Who maintains more power? The person who's endlessly empathetic or the person who's strategically compassionate? Niccolo Machiavelli understood this dynamic when he wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." In our modern context, this means it's better to be respected for your boundaries than liked for your emotional availability. When you absorb everyone's emotions, you're teaching the world that you can be manipulated through guilt. When you maintain strategic empathy, you're teaching them that your compassion has limits. The first law of strategic empathy is what I call selective compassion, the deliberate practice of choosing where you invest your emotional energy based on strategic value, not emotional pressure. This isn't coldness or indifference, it's strategic positioning. When you absorb everyone's emotions, you're operating from weakness. When you choose strategically where to be empathetic, you're operating from power. Think about the last time someone guilt-tripped you into helping them. They shared their struggle, made you feel their pain, and you immediately said yes because you couldn't bear their discomfort. In that moment, you felt like you were being compassionate, but you were actually being manipulated. But what if, instead of absorbing their emotions, you maintained your boundaries? What if you recognized that their emotional state is not your responsibility? What if you became the person who helps strategically, rather than the person who absorbs endlessly? Machiavelli captured this perfectly. The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. In the context of empathy, this means the strategically intelligent individual enforces boundaries immediately, while the overly empathetic person eventually burns out and becomes resentful. The person who absorbs everyone's emotions is weak regardless of their compassion or resources. The person who maintains strategic empathy is powerful because they cannot be manipulated through emotional leverage. In the digital age, this principle becomes even more critical. Every text message that demands emotional support, every social media post that triggers your empathy, every guilt trip that makes you feel responsible for others' feelings is draining your energy. The person who absorbs all of this becomes exhausted, resentful, and powerless. Meanwhile, the strategically empathetic individual remains powerful precisely because they're selective. They don't absorb everyone's emotions. They don't become everyone's therapist. They don't let guilt trips control their decisions. This isn't heartlessness. It's strategic self-preservation. The second principle of strategic empathy is emotional sovereignty, the uncompromising practice of protecting your emotional energy from being drained by others' problems. This requires understanding that in a world of constant emotional demands, the ability to maintain your own emotional state beats the ability to absorb everyone else's. Most people absorb emotions because they believe empathy equals virtue. They think that feeling others' pain, being available for everyone, and never saying no to emotional labor makes them a good person. But this is backwards. True power comes from the ability to maintain your emotional energy, to protect your boundaries, and to choose strategically where you invest your compassion, not from becoming an emotional sponge for everyone's problems. Consider two professionals in the same industry. Professional A absorbs everyone's stress, becomes the office therapist, and never enforces boundaries around emotional labor. Professional B maintains strategic empathy, enforces boundaries around their emotional energy, and protects their capacity for the work that matters. Who do you think maintains more power? Who's less likely to burn out? Who commands more respect? The person who absorbs everyone's emotions, or the person who maintains strategic boundaries? Machiavelli understood this when he observed, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." In modern terms, this means it's better to be respected for your boundaries than liked for your emotional availability. The person who can be manipulated through guilt, emotional pressure, or the promise of being needed is weak regardless of their position or resources. The person who maintains emotional sovereignty is powerful because they cannot be drained through emotional manipulation. In professional settings, this means not becoming the office therapist, not absorbing everyone's stress, and not letting emotional labor drain your capacity for actual work. The person who absorbs everyone's emotions becomes the person everyone dumps their problems on. The person whose energy is considered free, the person who's always helping but never respected. The person who maintains strategic empathy becomes the person whose boundaries are respected, whose energy is valued, whose compassion is meaningful, precisely because it's not given freely to everyone about everything. The third law of strategic empathy is pragmatic compassion, the ruthless prioritization of helping strategically over absorbing emotionally. This requires answering a simple but profound question. Am I helping this person, or am I just absorbing their emotions to avoid feeling guilty? Most people absorb emotions because they're afraid of being seen as cold, of feeling guilty, or of disappointing others. They believe that if they can feel others' pain enough, they can help them. But this is backwards. True help comes from the ability to maintain your own emotional state while offering strategic support, not from becoming so emotionally invested that you lose your ability to actually help. The strategically intelligent individual understands that excessive empathy is often self-indulgence in disguise. They're willing to maintain boundaries, to say no to emotional labor, to protect their energy, even when it's uncomfortable in the short term, because they understand that long-term power comes from emotional sovereignty, not emotional absorption. This isn't about becoming cold or unfeeling. It's about becoming intentional. It's about recognizing that your ability to help others depends on your ability to maintain your own emotional energy. When you absorb everyone's emotions, you lose the capacity to actually help anyone. When you maintain strategic empathy, you gain the power to help meaningfully while protecting yourself. You become unpredictable to those who would manipulate you through emotional pressure, and you become unstoppable in pursuit of your objectives. In relationships, this means not becoming everyone's therapist, not absorbing partners' emotional baggage, and not letting guilt control your decisions. In leadership, this means maintaining emotional boundaries while still being compassionate, not absorbing your team's stress, and protecting your capacity for strategic decisions. In your field, This means not letting emotional labor drain your energy for the work that actually matters. The person who can maintain strategic empathy, who can enforce boundaries around emotional energy, who can help without absorbing, this person commands respect and wields real power. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, because it belongs to everybody to see you, to few to come in touch with you." In our modern context, this means people will judge you by your results, by your ability to maintain your power, by your strategic effectiveness, not by how much emotional labor you perform or how many emotions you absorb. When you absorb everyone's emotions, you reveal that you can be manipulated. When you maintain strategic empathy, you project authority. The ultimate goal of strategic empathy isn't to become cold or unfeeling. It's to master the art of being compassionate while maintaining your power. It's to reach a state where you can help others meaningfully without being drained, where your empathy is strategic rather than exploitable, and where your compassion serves your objectives rather than undermining them. This doesn't mean becoming heartless or abandoning compassion. It means developing what I call strategic compassion, the ability to be genuinely empathetic while maintaining boundaries that protect your energy and power. When someone tries to manipulate you through guilt, you recognize the attempt and choose not to engage emotionally. When circumstances trigger your empathy, you observe the emotion, process what it's telling you, and then choose a response that serves your objectives rather than just absorbing their pain. When the world tries to drain your emotional energy through constant demands, you maintain your sovereignty. The unmovable force understands that true power isn't the ability to absorb everyone's emotions. It's the ability to maintain your own emotional state while helping strategically. It's the ability to be compassionate without being manipulable, to help without being drained, to care without losing your power. In our hyper-connected, emotionally demanding world, this kind of strategic empathy is revolutionary. While others are absorbing emotions, performing endless emotional labor, and being drained by everyone's problems, you operate from a place of emotional sovereignty and strategic compassion. The principles I've shared today aren't about becoming cold or abandoning empathy. They're about reclaiming your power in a world designed to make you an emotional sponge. They're about trading the temporary satisfaction of being needed for the lasting strength of being respected. In the digital age, where everyone is demanding emotional support, constantly venting and using guilt to manipulate, the person who operates differently becomes magnetic. The person who maintains strategic empathy, who enforces boundaries around emotional energy, who helps without absorbing, this person stands out like a beacon in a sea of emotional exhaustion. The choice is yours. Continue absorbing everyone's emotions, performing endless emotional labor, and forever at the mercy of those who know how to manipulate you through guilt. Or develop the strategic intelligence to maintain emotional sovereignty, enforce boundaries, and become truly powerful. As Machiavelli understood centuries ago, and as our empathy-obsessed culture has made more relevant than ever, true power lies not in absorbing everyone's emotions, but in maintaining strategic empathy. The less you absorb, the more power you maintain. The more you protect your energy, the more you can actually help. The more you enforce boundaries, the more respect you command. The path to power through strategic empathy is uncompromising, because it requires you to resist every instinct our empathy-obsessed culture has programmed into you. But for those disciplined enough to maintain emotional sovereignty rather than absorbing endlessly, it offers something invaluable: the ability to help meaningfully, to maintain your power, and the kind of strength that comes not from being an emotional sponge, but from strategic compassion.